afternoon, and we're back again. Welcome back to Mortgage Financing and Home Buyer Ready. I'm your host, Barbara Grant Proctor with Cardinal Financial.
Hello, and I'm Jackie Abrams with Sampson Properties.
What are we going to talk about today, Jackie?
Oh my goodness. This is our third week talking about the real estate process.
Real estate process, yes.
And but before I get into everything about that, I would like to remind our audience that we actually have two email addresses that we'd like to invite you to go to. One is called homebuyingaudience@gmail.com if you'd like to be an audience in our show. And the other one is homebuying questions. If you have any questions on any of the topics or any questions regarding mortgage financing or the real estate process.
So when we come right back, we'll continue with the real estate process, right, Jackie?
Yes, we will.
So please stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Tania McQueen. I'm the Residential Services Manager for Prestige Community Resources.
What our new facilities are respite centers. We're opening 2 in the city right now. Hopefully we'll expand to more. But respite centers are a place where people can come and get a little additional support with their mental health. Our one on Eastern Avenue is for men, and our one on Minnesota Avenue is for women. Our facilities are for all DC residents, especially focusing in on those in Ward 7 and 8. So they're really nice, and I'm excited for consumers to actually see them. What are the services that we're going to provide? Therapy, case management, medication management, all provided by professional staff, a licensed nurse practitioner, psychiatrists, sociologists, social workers, and then our paraprofessionals, our case managers. It's just a place where you can come and get the supports that you need to work on your personal goals, as well as to get your mental health straight. Simple, single adult, 18 years of age or older, a DC resident. You need to have insurance, but if you don't have it, it's okay. Still come, we'll work on getting you insurance. Have to have a negative COVID test, a negative TB test, and be willing to work on your mental health. For more information about respite services, you can contact us at 202-796-5000 or hit us up on our website at www.prestigecommunityresources.org.
So welcome back to Mortgage Financing and Home Buyer Ready. And last week, we ended with talking about once we receive the contract, and then we had a lengthy discussion on EMD, the earnest money deposit, and why that is very important when securing your contract, right,
yes,
Jackie?
Extremely important.
Okay, so
extremely.
What are we going to do today?
Okay.
Where are you going to take us to today? Because I'm excited.
All righty. Well, this is going to actually be part 3, Barbara.
Yes.
Of the real estate process. As you can tell, it's a long process, and so we're trying to get in all the information so that our audience is aware of what could happen for them in the future. So we are going to go into part 3. So as you just said, we went from offer to contract, and now we're going to go from contract to closing. Lots of stuff happens in between that.
That's
time.
the good stuff. The closing.
It is the good stuff.
That's the good stuff.
I guess our clients might call that the best step. The
best stuff. There you
the
go.
Best step.
There you go.
That's right. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And basically, I'd just like to know that, like everyone to know that once the contract gets accepted, that's when everything really starts to rocking and rolling. Because we're on a timeline, whatever your agent sets as your timeline, depending on what your situation is. Some mortgages and some processes are able to close within 2 weeks. That would probably be only cash, right, Barbara?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes something can close in 2 weeks if someone is putting a lot of money down. And when I get into my process, we'll talk about that a little bit more, because sometimes I can get what's called an appraisal waiver, and they don't have to get an appraisal. That's what cuts it down.
Wow.
So the 2 weeks, normally on a contract, you give about 30 days, depending
that's
on,
right.
Whether or not we're adding something to the contract, like a down payment assistance or something. But done plenty of two week closings. And our clients love that when we do the 2-week closing. So yeah, so we can do that at times, and it
Okay.
just depends.
All righty. Well, I hope to have more of those 2-week closings in the future.
Me too. Love them. Love them.
But basically, everybody needs to know that once that contract is accepted, that date is very important, and everything counts down from that date to count up to your date of closing or settlement. Once I get the contract from the, usually I'm working with the buyer. Usually that's I'm working with the buyer. So once I get the contract from the seller's agent, then I go into like automated mode. I, of course, let the clients know that has been received. Then I let Barbara know immediately, don't I,
Yes.
Barbara? I think I'm
Immediately.
pretty good about that.
Immediately.
Letting you know immediately that we have it, because you like to immediately start. So
like
if
to
you don't know we
immediately
have it,
start.
you can't get started. And then I also like to let the title company know. And most of the clients that I work with, Barbara, they accept my recommendation on using Cardinal Title Group. And so
And
Cardinal
that's
Ti-
no affiliation with
That's right.
Cardinal Financial.
Yes,
No
yes,
affiliation.
Yes, I'm glad you said that. So, and they do an excellent job. I've been working with them now consistently for, I guess, maybe 3 years, something like that. They do an excellent job of being timely, getting the information out, of course, checking the title work and all of that. And we'll come back to that a little bit later, exactly
Maybe
what
we'll
they
have
do.
somebody from the title company come in.
I
That
love
would be
that.
wonderful.
I love that.
That would be
I
wonderful.
do.
Yep.
And so I get that information out to them, and usually, depending on the time of day, if it's in the morning, within a couple of hours, they will send me an email with tasks to do. They are pretty on it. If it's late in the night, I can expect that in the morning, usually before, maybe 11 or 12. And they want to know the information about the buyer. So they send out something called the buyer information sheet. And even though it's really addressed to the buyer, because I am the type of agent, I like to take as much stress and strain off of my clients as possible. I actually fill out most of that for them. It's information that I know, it's readily at hand, and I fill it out, and then I send it to them to review and to sign. And then once that happens, I send it back in to Cardinal Title Group. I was going to say Cardinal Financial.
Cardinal Financial.
Through Cardinal Title Group, through their wonderful system. I love your system is Octane. Barbara, their system is Qualia.
Yes.
And Qualia is an encrypted system that everything can be downloaded into, and it just makes everything easier for everyone. We can all see it. We can all see the process, the where they are with actually processing the title work, whether or not tasks have been done. If I have tasks as an agent, when my clients get tasks, they can see whether or
I
not
see it
everyone
too.
can see. You can see
I
it
see it too.
That's
And I know
because I
what's
add
going
you.
on.
That's
Yep.
because I add you in there. That's right.
Absolutely.
So it just helps. It helps everyone, and so those systems really, really, really work well. The next thing I want to talk about is actually the title company and the
Okay.
title work.
Okay.
The title work. The titles work actually has two umbrellas. There is a title policy, and there's a policy, as you know, for lenders, and then there's a policy for the owners. And I've been told, Barbara, that the lender policy, there is no negotiation.
No negotiation.
You must have
the
that.
lender is going to protect themselves at all costs. Now, whether the client wants to protect themselves, well, Jackie's going to get into that a little bit, but the lender is going to protect themselves at all costs.
Okay, so what does that mean? That means that who's paying for that protection?
Oh, well, you are. You are paying for that protection.
As
That's
the
why there's
client,
no
as the
negotiation.
client, right.
The lender must have a policy. That is just part of the closing costs. That's just period. Right? And then we're going to get into why these policies are very important.
That's right. That's right. So, as Barbara just said, the owner's title policy, that's something that is rather negotiable. The owner or the new buyer may decide not to get it. Most, I believe anyway, most title companies probably already include the cost of that title
Yeah.
policy in their closing costs. So if you decide that you don't want to get that protection, and that's exactly the way you need to look at it. I'm glad you used
Right.
that word, Barbara, as protection.
That's what it is.
You will say that at the closing table, and then you would actually get a refund of that money back as a part of your closing costs that you had pretty much, it was considered that you had paid it. So the reason for the title policy is very, very important. I've actually had some clients that had a title policy and did not even know that they had it. And years later, it came back. Something happened.
needed it.
And they needed it. So it's just like any other type of insurance. You don't know you need it until you need it. Until something
you need
happens.
it.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And then when something happens, you are protected. And you're protected from things like forgeries and fraud. I mean, the title companies, they do the best that they can to go through public records and all of the other things that they use to check on the title to see if there are any liens on the title. There may be something called mechanic liens, tax liens, just different types of liens.
But you know, one of the most scariest ones, and it has happened, is burial grounds.
Oh,
Reservations.
my
Yes.
gosh.
So these developments that are going up consistently, right? And the land that they're building a lot of these developments on. Sometimes, and it has happened, that people have come back and says, well, wait a minute. This was a burial site for my ancestors, or this was a burial site for my family members. And that title insurance protects you, because if it is proven that it was a burial site, guess who incurs the cost? You do, unless you have title protection.
wow. That's amazing.
And the Indian reservations, a lot of times, remember, we know where they were at, right?
That's
we
right.
know.
That's
We
right.
know what happened. So a lot of developments are going up on Indian reservations, on the land, of their ancestors. So you have to have that title insurance, but let me take that back. You don't have to have it. It's recommended that you get
That's
it.
right. That's right.
Now, I mean, you could toss it and you could say, well, this development's been up here for so many years and nothing has happened, but that option is always given to you by Jackie.
That's right. So I try to let my clients know the cost of their owner's policy up front, and then they can be thinking about it. The most important thing I always like for my clients to know is that obtaining your title policy is something you can do only at the closing table. You get one chance. It's a one-time fee, and let's just say for maybe a $300,000 home, it's going to be maybe less than $1,000. Maybe $800 to $1,000. So not a whole lot of money
Right.
for the protection that it could provide you as long as you own that home. As soon as the deed is transferred to someone else, then that policy is considered, I guess dead. No longer, you can't use it any longer. Can't usually be transferred. That's my understanding.
And I'm sitting here and I was thinking about, now that may be a long stretch, what I talked about, the burial sites. But as you were talking, I also remember one of the most important reasons why you normally tell people that to get this policy. So say, for instance, you go to sell a house or even to refinance the house. Let's say refinance the house. And the new title company finds a lien from maybe 3 borrowers
That's
down the
right.
line.
That's right.
3 borrowers down the line. If you don't have a title policy, they can say, well, if we can't find that this lien has been cleared, in order for you to get your refinance, you're going to have to clear that. But if you have a title policy, your title policy would take care of it. Your insurance, right?
Yes, yes. And that's exactly what happened with one of my clients.
Absolutely. It
sh-
happens.
yeah,
That
yeah.
happens more than what I said, but I just
That's
wanted to
right.
give
That's right.
reasons why we recommend the title policy.
So we were in the thick of her going through the process, and got a call from the title company saying, "Uh-oh, Jackie, there's something on the title." And they call it a cloud. I like that word, a cloud. We all know
Something's a little
what
murky.
a cloud is.
It's a
That's
little
right.
murky.
It's dark. It's ominous that something
Yeah,
is about to
you know.
happen. You can tell. So when I remember taking a deep breath, and I had to call my client and say, "Oh my gosh, this is what's going on here." And I said, "Do you have title insurance?" And she said, "No."
I didn't get that.
So I had to really kind of walk her through that. And when she was able to check, she had purchased it 15 years ago when she purchased the home, and she just didn't remember.
You didn't remember that she had it.
Yeah, I mean, who remembers yesterday at this point in life?
Right.
But she didn't
Absolutely.
remember 15 years prior to that, but she had it, and everything was okay, and we were able to move on. And she has now owned her home for almost 2 years. Yes.
Absolutely. Awesome. Awesome.
So Another thing that people always ask me about, Barbara, and you're going to think that this is funny because someone
Okay.
just asked me, one of my new clients
Okay.
with a new contract,
Okay.
just asked me, how can I save money on closing costs?
Okay.
And he said to me, am I able to not get an appraisal or not get the homeowner's insurance? And I said, well, yes, that is possible that you don't have to have an appraisal. And Barbara actually just explained one way then, just a few minutes ago. But in this particular case, I said in a very funny kind of way, well, you have been holding out on me. I had no idea that you would be able to pay cash for this particular home, and it's up there, it's up there. I said, but if you're able to do that, if you're able to pay cash, you've been holding out on me, and you're able to pay cash for this property, then you will not have to to get an appraisal.
You're not have to get. You're just
So I
gonna
said,
pay for
so-
whatever they ask for.
So I said, so are you going to get an appraisal or not? And he starts laughing. He goes, yeah, okay, I'm going to get an appraisal. And then as far as home insurance, of course, I don't think, and I'm pretty sure I'm right about this, Barbara, would a lender allow a homeowner or a purchaser not to get home insurance if they have a mortgage on the property?
Okay, so that's twofold.
Okay.
Depending on what state that you live in,
Oh, okay.
you have to have homeowners insurance, just like car insurance. There's certain states that don't require.
Oh,
Once a car is
wow.
paid for,
Okay, the car, yeah,
that
okay.
you don't have to have
Right,
car insurance.
right.
So it's the same thing with a home in certain states. That if you have a home and it's free and clear, you don't have to have homeowners insurance. Now, the state of Maryland, you have to have homeowners insurance. You're going to pay taxes. There's two things I know for certain. You're going to pay taxes, and you are going to have homeowners insurance, even if your home is free and clear.
Okay. And
So
the
you
word
have to
free
have-
and clear means?
There's no mortgage.
Okay.
There is no mortgage on the home.
Okay. Okay.
So if you're coming to me, you already know there's two things for sure. You're getting homeowners insurance. You're getting an appraisal. Three things.
That's right.
Go back to your
That's right.
appraisal.
That's
You're
right.
getting homeowners insurance. You're getting appraisal, and you're paying taxes.
And so, as I was thinking about that appraisal thing, one of the reasons that they have to get an appraisal is so they know the value.
So the
of
the
home.
value of not only so they know, so the lender that's financing that, we need to know what the value is, because we're not going to give you any more money than what the value of that home is. Not a penny more. So whatever that appraisal comes in at, that's how much money we will loan you, and you want to know that as well.
That's right.
You want to know that as well.
That's right. That's right. So, so anyway, those things are very important, and I knew that as a lender, you would have the lender perspective as to
Yes.
why that was important. And so
Absolutely.
I actually did give him the right answer, Barbara, just so
You
that you know
did.
that.
I know you
gave him the right
did.
answer.
I figured you did.
I was being a little funny there to make him laugh, but I did give him the right answer on that. So I'm glad of that too. So anyway, as far as the homeowners insurance, I actually work with several home insurance, or not just home insurance, but property insurance agents. And one particular one that I really like to work with, she's really good at providing information whenever I call. I always tell my clients I tell them about this particular agent because she has the ability to shop around
Right.
with several
like a broker.
companies. Yes.
Like an insurance
yes,
broker.
that's right. With several companies. But I also tell my clients, if you have car insurance or you've worked with a previous insurance company, to get your own quote.
Get your quote.
Then you can decide which quote is best for you. Now, I also caution them that you have to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges.
Yes.
Because one policy can show that you pay a whole lot less, but then
You don't have the right coverage.
you don't have the right coverage. You may have to have an astronomical deductible if something happens. So you really want to compare that. So I actually take time to help them to, like I said, we look at line item by item and see which one is really best for them.
And another thing, just to caveat on that, a lot of people that live in their homes, let's just say over 5 years now, you really need to go back and check your insurance policy, right? Because values have changed, and the coverage on your insurance policy has gone up. So if something was to happen, to your house and your house caved in,
That's a good point.
something,
right.
what do we have around here? I don't
Right.
know, tornadoes, hurricane or something, and something happened to your house, your insurance policy, I don't care what the value of your house is, they're only going to give you what they quoted you. And if you are not checking your insurance policy with the values of your home and checking to see and make sure, now, when you come to me to purchase a home or refinance, we check your insurance policies because we make sure once that appraisal comes in, we make sure that the insurance that you're given is covering the loan and covering the value of the home. So there's no problem there. But there's a lot of people that just never check their insurance policies, maybe never refi. Not only are they paying double, sometimes triple, but they're not getting enough coverage for their home.
Wow, that's an excellent point. And especially with what we have just experienced, especially in this area. I don't know about the whole United States, but in this area with values increasing significantly, that is a good point that all homeowners need to know.
They need to
know.
So
thank you, Barbara.
Yes.
Because I have never done that. So
yes, absolutely. And just a little story. It was many years ago.
Okay.
I was refinancing my home, and I noticed that my insurance was $6,000 a year. My homeowner's insurance, $6,000 a year. I said, something's not right about this. And so I went to another company and got an estimate. Let me just tell you, and I'm not going to say who the carrier was, but when I see that carrier, I notify people.
Wow.
I'm not even going to mention the carrier. But let me just
ask you, is it like a popular carrier?
Very much so.
Whoa.
Very much so. Very much. My homeowner's insurance went down $3,500.
Oh my goodness.
35.
That's more than half.
30.
Oh my gosh.
I was paying $6,000 a year.
Wow. And you compare apples to apples and oranges, Barbara. I know you did. You're
at
that
this
kind of
point,
person.
Jackie, I'm in the business.
right.
At this point, I'm in the business, Jackie. So it's very important. And that was something that I had learned. So a lot of times I don't tell people stuff that I ain't been through myself.
That's right.
Right? And I'm very adamant about it. If I've gone through it, I'm going to be very adamant about it with you when it comes to the financing part of it. So, so today I think you have a lot more, that we're talking about today. So what are some of the other things we're going to talk about after homeowners insurance?
Okay, so basically we're going to come back in not too long from now, and we're going to be talking about the next steps. So we've talked about how you need to, you get your appraisal, you'll get your homeowners insurance, and why all of that's important. And the next thing is something that's very important once you actually own the home, but you'll want to know that ahead of time. Okay?
Can I guess?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
I won't.
You can guess.
We're going to go out now. We're going to take a commercial break, and we're going to be right back.
We will.
I'm not going to guess, and then we'll just let Jackie tell us. Stay tuned.
It is key that you mind your mental health.
Hey guys, how's everyone? Hi.
Use the 5 keys to mental movement.
This week has been a really monumental week for me. I realized that I was not being myself.
Reaching out.
Be positive attitude person self, like you guys know me to be. I was
Staying
listening to
upbeat.
teaching and get back to that happy, cheery self of me.
This week's been kind of
Being
stressful,
creative.
all of the workload that we have on online learning. So I've been trying to use different platforms and different websites to help ease my mind and ease my stress.
And what about you, Marjorie?
Well, you guys know me. I just love to work with others and serve them.
Serving others.
Realize that when I serve others, my mind is off of myself.
That's right. And don't forget, self-care is key.
Self-care.
All right. So see you guys next week.
Right.
Bye.
Your mind matters.
And welcome back. We're back again with mortgage financing and Homebuyer Ready. And Jackie has just been giving us a whole lot of information. We just got finished talking about the importance of title insurance, home insurance. What's the next thing we're going to talk about?
Okay, well, this is something that I like to assist my clients with, and because sometimes it could be a little, if they've never had utilities in their name, they may want to start that process a little early. And when I say early, I don't mean the day that they move in. That
That's
might
not
not
early
be
enough.
that might not be early enough, depending on whether or not they've actually had the utilities in their name or not. So I usually suggest that they do several things right after we get what's called the clear to close. And Barbara, I'd like for you to expound on that in just a minute, okay? So I have them to set up the utility companies. I usually send them the information, whether it's, the gas company, whatever that is in their area. Of course, all of the different power companies, gas, electric, of course, the water.
And I want you to remember she has a timeline. Remember, she has
Yes,
an app
I do.
with the timeline. And
So
this
it's
is on the
there.
app.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
with the
It has to be.
timeline.
That's
I just had to throw that in. I'm sorry,
it has to
Jackie.
be.
Go ahead.
It's okay. It is okay. Timelines are my thing.
There
So-
you go. I love it.
And so what I have learned is that some areas have different rules for setting up their utilities. For example, the city of Bowie. I love Bowie.
Everybody loves
I lived there for a long, long, long time, and right now I am not there, and I miss my Bowie. But Bowie comes with different rules, regulations, specifications, and one of the things that they like to do is they actually have a representative come out to the home for the water bill.
Okay.
The water bill.
Check the bill,
Yes,
get the reading.
they check the meter, and you cannot send that information in. The other companies, you can go online, WSSC, you can go online, you can call them up. But so you want to kind of know that ahead of time if you're in the city of Bowie,
Okay.
that you're
I
going
didn't
to
know
have
that.
to have a representative actually
know
come
that.
out to the
Okay.
home. So if you wait, you
Might
know,
not have water, huh?
might not have water.
Oh.
But the most important thing also is that the seller does not cut the water off. It should be a transfer
Okay.
from owner to from old owner, previous owner, I guess I should say, to new owner.
Okay.
And if it's a transfer, you don't have to worry.
Okay.
But if that water is ever cut off, you might go some days and not have any water.
Waiting for the city of Bowie to come out
Well,
and read your meter?
that's not just Bowie. But that would be one impact. But
Okay.
that's WSSC also.
Just if you haven't set it up
That's
prior
right.
to
That's
moving
right.
into the home.
That's
Okay.
right. That's right. So
Because I guarantee you the sellers, they're putting the end date in there.
they are going to do an
They're
end
putting the
date,
end date.
but if the listing agent hasn't said to them do a transfer as opposed to canceling or cutting off the service,
Very important.
stopping the service. Oh my gosh, yeah, big
Very
difference,
important.
huge difference. So that's one of the things I like to kind of alert them to ahead of time. And there have been times, Barbara, where my clients have set it up too far in advance. And that's because it was on the timeline. Because we were supposed to
didn't
close.
we
And
didn't
so,
close on
yeah, we
time.
didn't close,
Didn't close
on
on
the
time.
date that
Okay.
we were going to.
Okay.
And so, so I have to make sure that I go in there and change the timeline. And I might have missed that one, Barbara. I might have missed that by a few days. And so
Wasn't my fault
And
then.
so no, it was not. It was not. And so it was already set up, but it didn't impact anything. It didn't impact anything. But it's just kind of like laying out there, just kind of waiting. So my new rule in the last couple of years is we're going to wait until we get the clear to close.
Okay.
And depending on if it's a clear to close that we get on a Friday and we think we're going to close on a Monday, then I say to them, go ahead and set it up early because you can't do much over the
Okay.
weekend. Now, some people don't like to do things electronically online because you could do it on a Saturday online.
They like to make that phone call.
They like to make that phone call. And so they may not answer. So you just want to, you have to kind of look at the day of the week to make a decision as to which one is going to work. So that's always very important. And so the clear to close, Barbara, can you give us a little bit of information about exactly what that is?
Well, it's exactly what it says. It's clear to close. That means that the underwriter has looked at everything. We got your title in. We got your appraisal in. You have virtually been approved on everything. And we actually submit a clear to close. And then what happens then, now it goes between the closing department of the lender and the title company. Now that's where they have to balance out everything. The actual day we're going to close, how many days of reserves, how many days, because the money is not always exact because we're not sure exactly what day that you're going to close.
Okay.
And then there sometimes some other fees with the title company or with the realtor. All of that is added onto the closing disclosure. It's called a CD. You may know it as a HUD-1. You may know it as a settlement statement, but they're called closing disclosures
that
now.
word HUD-1, agents who have been in the business a long time
They still use
know
HUD-1.
HUD-1. They know that word
And some people know HUD-1. That's been around
forever,
for a
I
long
guess.
time,
Yeah.
right? But it's all one and the same when laws and things were changed, right? So whether it's a closing disclosure, but the clear to close, that means that every figure that transpires during everything with processing your loan will show up on this document, and that's when you find out exactly what you need to come to the table with. Because a lot of people get a little yancy with that because they don't know, and we have to consistently tell them it's not until exactly you're getting ready to close. And we, with Octane, we try to estimate as close as possible, but sometimes, like what you talk about, like the water bill, right?
Yes.
If you have to pay the seller something with the water bill that the title company comes back with, that's not going to show up until we clear the close and the title company puts that on there, right?
Yes.
That's not going to show because that's not something that we would handle. Right. So we don't really care about that. But the title company and the real estate agent, they care about that for their bar and for their seller.
Yes.
So things like that will be added onto the title. So we constantly try to tell everybody it's an estimate. Don't get too caught up. It may be a couple $100 off to your good, or couple $100 more that you have to pay, but don't get too caught up on that.
Okay, and I have a solution to that, Barbara, that I'm going to come back to in just a minute when we get to that part.
Okay.
So the other thing that's very important is once we get the clear to close, and I love getting the clear to close.
Yes, she does.
I actually have this little thing that I send out letting everybody know, my clients know. Barbara, of course, Barbara knows we have the clear to close. I don't have to let her know. She's letting me know. But to send out to the clients, and they love that we have the clear to close. We are almost there.
Now, the thing about it is Octane lets them know too, but half the time they're not paying attention.
Right.
So I just forward it on to Jackie, and I let Jackie do her thing. And whatever other agent, you just send that, we're clear to close, whether they're looking into Octane and they see the clear to close.
That's right. So once the clear to close happens, and is there a timeline on the clear to close? Can we get a clear to close in, I don't know, 7 or 8 days? Do we get a clear to close?
A clear to close in 7 to 8 days once I put the loan in?
No.
A clear to close when?
Okay, the clear to close, and then what's going to happen after the clear to close?
That's when
close.
Well, that's when the title company and our closing department, they do the figures, right? That's usually within 24 hours, right? And then the date is set up at the title company on what day that you want to close. Right.
Okay.
Is that your question? Was that your question?
Sort of. I guess that's it. Yeah, I guess that's it.
You said 7 days. Where's 7 days come from?
That was...
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Are we talking about the right to rescission? You wouldn't be talking about that because that's refinance. That's
No.
right to rescission.
Yeah,
so
once we get the clear to close,
Yeah.
and we know what day we're going
If you're
to close
purchasing.
on, if
Right.
you're purchasing, yes. We also do something that's very important called the walkthrough. The walkthrough, and it has been an amazing journey of walkthroughs. That in the beginning, walkthroughs were just that. I tell my clients we're going to do this walkthrough in about 30 minutes. It's not a time to measure for window treatments. It's not a time to measure whether the room can fit your king size bed. We're walking through the property, and we're basically making sure that property is in the same condition that it was in the last time we saw it. And when I say we, that might be the buyer and myself. That might be the home inspector. So the last time that it was actually viewed by someone, quote unquote, on your team as a buyer. And so very, very, very important. So if there are repairs to be made, I will let them know that it might be closer to 45 minutes, maybe an hour, but that's a little excessive because we're just going to walk through to make sure that all of the repairs have been done as we've said, or as the owner has said that he or she will do. So we may want to schedule that walkthrough a little earlier than the
some not lenders, but excuse me, some agents do it the day of.
And I used to do that.
Right.
I did.
But that's not good.
No, it's not. And I had to learn that lesson, Barbara. And it was a hard lesson. But thank goodness I didn't do that particular one on the day
Is
of.
that the same one I'm thinking
Yeah,
about?
I know you are.
When
I
you
know you
started
are.
saying it,
I
I
know
was
you
like,
are.
I'm sitting
I know
here
you
with
are.
my head down. I'm
I
going.
know you are.
Because it was amazing.
Woo!
That walkthrough was what, like 2 days?
It was I believe
3
I
days?
believe it was 3 days before, but it was a toss up as to whether we were going to do it on the same morning because it was a late closing, or whether we were going to do it 3 days early. And thank goodness the client was able to be off, and so we did it 3 days early, Barbara. And my goodness, because I had to squeeze it in, I had something that I was going to do a little bit later, so I had a short timeline. And I'm like, okay, well, I can drive there. I had already figured out my timeline. You know me and those timeline barbers. Figured out my timeline to drive there, to have our 30 minutes, and then to drive to where I needed to be.
Right.
And it was perfect timing.
Didn't work out that way.
Did not work out that way, Barbara.
So called me. As the lender, you gotta get here. You have got to get here.
As we are walking up,
Oh, my
Barbara,
gosh.
there were all of these signs that something had happened, but my brain didn't let me know the signs and what that meant until after I saw the whole thing. And I'm going to tell you what that was. So as we're walking up, this was a beautiful property, fully rehabbed, lots of land, and it had a little creek nearby the property, Barbara. You actually had to, once you parked in this gravel driveway, you may remember that the day that you showed up there, you had to actually walk some distance from the gravel driveway to the front door. And I would say to my client, you know, this is a beautiful home, absolutely love it, but have you thought about what that's going to be like when you're carrying groceries from your car?
Client likes what they like.
Yeah, they do, and she loved it.
The grounds were beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. Trees. It was like a little
Oasis away from home, like you were on the islands or something, right?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I even named that house the Oasis.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
See?
I even named it the Oasis because that was exactly what it was like. So this particular day, we're walk through. In my head, I'm like, okay, we've got to get this done because I'm the only one who knows my timeline. I said to them I have limited time, but I'm looking at my watch. So I'm walking a little faster than everyone else up this little path and on toward the house. And I kind of noticed it's a little rocky, little stones and pebbles that I didn't see the time before. But I said, okay. Well,
And there was no grass.
Right.
When I came, I was like, well, what happened to the grass?
Right, because there had been lots of grass before, but what happened was the pebbles and the rocks and the stones had covered lots of the grass. And so anyway, my brain, it picked that up, but it didn't hold on to it. So I'm walking toward the house, and I look back, and they're still back, at the beginning of where the land started for this oasis. And I'm up here at the house about to go in. So I'm like, okay, guys, come on. We need to go ahead and get this done. So I go on in, and I'm looking around. And everything is looking, okay, upon walking in. And by this time, they're at the front door, and they come in and they sit down. And I'm thinking, okay, why are they sitting down? We need to move. We need to move here. so anyway, I start doing basically the walkthrough myself, so I can get to my other appointment in a timely manner. So walk downstairs. I said, let me just go ahead and do the basement. And when I walked downstairs, we were just about to leave. We probably would have left in about 10 minutes from that point. So I go downstairs, and OMG. What did I see? I saw evidence that the house had had a flood.
It was like when Jackie called me and said, is there any way that you can come here as the lender and look at this?
Oh, my gosh.
It was like a tsunami had hit that place.
It was like a tsunami had hit it. But we didn't notice all of the damage until after that happened. Once I noticed that something had happened inside, we were able to see that something had happened outside. So anyway, there was a dark line, a water demarcation line, if you will, Barbara, that was about 18 inches high, 18 to 20 inches high. That told us that water had been in that property for a long time to make that line. So at that point, my brain said, okay, Jackie, that's why all those rocks and stones were there, because the creek had flooded. Something happened.
All the land.
Yeah, something happened, and all the land had flooded, and it got in the house and in the basement, and it must have been in there for a long time.
while.
The home inspector had actually been the last person on the team to go into the home, and he sent pictures, and there was no damage then, and so I actually had to call the agent and had to say, this is what happened, and the agent was basically giving me lots of pushback that, well, okay, that's what happened, but we are closing in 3 days. Mold was everywhere. Mold was on the ceiling. Mold was on the near the floor. It was all over the walls. It was mold was actually as tall as I am long. Okay, as long as I am tall, I guess I should say. It was everywhere. And lo and behold, who was allergic to mold in that transaction? My client. My clients. So it was like, okay, this is not going to happen. And so it was pretty obvious that there may have been some thoughts that this little small problem, as the agent was kind of looking at it, even though I had taken pictures to let her know what was going on, that maybe it could be remedied very quickly, and it could all be done in 3 days.
Remediation, there's no way.
That's right. That's right. Not all of that mediation, because I've been told that if it's a certain amount of mold, that an actual person who is not actually qualified to do remediation, like a contractor. A contractor can take care of a small amount of mold, but as much mold as we saw that day, it was definitely going to be a major remediation, definitely.
And then me looking at it as a lender, I had to go back and tell my company there was no way. There was just no way we were going to finance that property. There was just no way. So I'm glad that you called me.
That's right. That's right.
I'm glad
I was
that you
just
called
like,
me. Now, is that something I always do?
Yes.
No, but I think this was an emergency.
And I do believe you happen to be pretty close by.
Yeah.
You were pretty close by. It just all worked out. The way I look at it, we were all in God's hands that day, and it all worked out.
Yes.
But so anyway, needless to say, the client did not end up purchasing that home in 3 days. And, there were some, oh no, why did this happen feelings. But my thought was, just suppose we had closing in 3 days, that the day we got there, it had not flooded at whatever time it did. And you're now a homeowner.
And that happens.
And that happened. Okay.
Yes.
It just so happens that land did not have a whole lot of lights on it. And so walking up, it could have been, dark, and who knows what could have happened.
Absolutely.
So I really looked at that as God's grace.
Yes.
That it happened
We all
3
did.
days before. Yes, we
all
all
did.
did. You're
We all
right.
did.
We all did.
And just to say, she's in a beautiful home.
Oh,
now.
she
She's
is,
in a
and
beautiful
she
home now.
loves it.
She's in a
She
beautiful
loves
home
it.
now,
So that one didn't work out, but the one that she has now, she absolutely loves, and there's no way that could have a flood.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah. You may remember that was the house that had the little bridge that was built that you had to walk over.
I know what house
Yeah.
it is. Never seen
So
it.
anyway.
First of all, I never knew the house was there to start with.
right.
And it just looked like you were in the islands or
That's
something.
right,
It was
that's
beautiful.
right,
But
absolutely.
but
So
yeah,
anyway,
she's in a beautiful home.
as a result of that experience, I now do walkthroughs, never ever on the day of anymore.
Right.
Never ever ever. And so, like I said, 3 to maybe 5 days. I think I've done one at 5 days before, and that may have been due to someone being able to be off, the client being able to be off or whatever. But my bottom line story is, it needs to be done. It needs to be done timely, and because you never know what you're going to walk into, you need to be expecting.
Right.
Yeah, you need to be ready for whatever.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. But, we're getting to the end of the process, and we want to get to important part of how you get the funds wired, right? So when we come back, we're getting ready to go to another break, Jackie.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to sum this process up, wiring the funds to the title company. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
There's one thing in life that will never change. Power. The power to be who you are. Unapologetic. Beautiful. Strong. Even when they don't know you, and they know you. Who are you? Kashella Karor.
Well, welcome back. We're still here talking about the real estate process. And so we're wiring down to the end of it. So Jackie's going to continue to give the rest of the information to us that I'm sure you guys are ready to receive.
One of the things I also do, Barbara, at the walkthrough is I like to take pictures of what's going on at the walkthrough, and I use those for a special purpose. But the other thing that I do, I like to specifically take a picture of the water meter so that it is, I send it to the title company, I make sure the client has a picture of it, and I send it to the agent.
Okay.
And that's just so there's no discrepancy about what that number was on whatever day we went for the walkthrough. Okay? So that I think everybody appreciates that.
Of course,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think everybody appreciates that. So anyway, the other thing that I like to do is prior to closing, usually I will do this maybe the evening before closing, is I send to the client the address, a phone number of where we're going for closing. Now they have that information well in advance. Of course, it's in the timeline once the title company has been identified.
Right.
But that's pretty early on in the timeline. And I started doing this particular thing, Barbara, sending that information again in a text to their phone
Yes, so they have
the
it.
evening before, because I had a client who had been cool, calm, collected the whole time through this process, the whole time. And it happened to be new construction.
Okay.
So it was actually before I met you.
Okay.
And so the cool, calm, collected, knew everything, on task, on time, the whole time. Come the day of closing, I guess nerves may have gotten to this person. And this person clicked on something and maybe even Googled an address of the title company. And we were in Greenbelt for the closing. That's where we were supposed to be. Well, that's where I was. Let me say it like that. I was in Greenbelt along with the title agent. And my client was in Rockville.
Wow.
On time.
That's a difference.
On time, but in Rockville. And it was during traffic time.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
when I'm sitting there talking to the closing agent, like looking at the time, saying, okay, haven't had any time issues with this client before. What's going on? Make a phone call, and I'm here.
I'm already
Where
here.
are you? Where are you? I don't see you. So luckily, that closing agent did not have a closing after that.
That was good.
And so we were able to wait close to an hour, I guess, for the client to arrive and have our closing.
Yeah, traffic is no joke.
That's
Rush
right.
hour.
That's right. Rush hour, exactly. So anyway, it worked out, and that was a lesson because I don't know what's going on in everyone's life right before closing. People do get nervous. Things do happen. And if someone is not thinking and they just put in a title company, and it was the correct title company, it's just that they had an office in
location.
Rockville.
Wow.
as well as Greenbelt.
Wow.
So anyway, I like to learn from those, what I call, and I mean, it may be
Aha
considered a
moments.
mistake, but aha moment, love
Yes.
that. Like to learn from those aha moments and make sure that that's the last time that aha happens.
You don't want too many ahas.
That's right. No. So anyway, that was just a little thing I'd like to throw in there, Barbara, as to, things to do to try to make the process as easy for the client right up to the last minute. Right up to the last minute.
And that's what they're looking for us to do.
That's right.
That's what you should be looking for us to do.
And prior to us actually having closing, they will want to know, what kinds of things to expect. So I usually give them a little rundown as to what to expect. I always tell them to be sure to bring your ID because they're going to take a copy
need
of
your
that.
ID.
Definitely need the ID. And is that because people like to do crazy things, Barbara, like fraud, or what is the purpose of that?
You're not going to sign without any ID.
Okay.
The title company has to know who you are. Even though we collect that at the front, you collect it, I collect it. Now you're physical, and your ID is physical. And they need to know whoever's signing on this dotted line is the same exact person.
Gotcha. Okay. One of the closings that I had, Barbara, and I learned something. It's like I should have known what that meant, but it was the time that I learned what AKA actually means. You use AKA all the time, but I learned that it means also known as. I
almost thought you was talking about the sorority. I was like, where did that come from?
I actually didn't know.
Like, AKA,
AKA,
I mean, that's the first thing I thought about was the sorority. AKA, but
AKA.
yes, also known as, yes.
Right. So also known as. So when I saw my name, it had my official name, and then it had a different spelling of my name because for some reason one of my credit cards had a little small difference in spelling, and it had my previous name. So it had all these names that I am also known as, AKA. And so I always like to point out to clients, you may see that on your, on your documents.
Well, it shows up on your credit report too.
Okay.
The different names that you've had in the past, it shows up whether you used your middle initial, you didn't, whether you were married before, your maiden name, your 2 marriage names, your 3 marriage names, your 4 marriage names, whatever. It shows up on your credit report.
So I tell them that, not to be alarmed. You may see that or whatever. You'll have to sign off to those are names that you have gone by in the past.
Yes.
Also tell them to bring the checkbook.
Important.
Oh my goodness. Is that ever important? And as Barbara said earlier, sometimes the figures may just be off by $100. Well, closing is not going to happen if we don't have the $100. We meaning the title company for the lender does not have the $100. It's not going to happen that day.
Right. Absolutely.
So I always say bring your checkbook. So maybe 2 years ago, maybe about 2 years ago, a client didn't tell me that they didn't have a checkbook. I never knew that. Until we're sitting at the closing table, Barbara, and
I don't use checks anymore.
And
either.
there's something that that was a little discrepant in the numbers, and so the title agent said, "It's okay. You can write a check," because they take checks for small amounts. They had done their wiring and all of that, but. So they look at each other, the husband and wife look at each other, and they know they don't have a checkbook. And so we had actually already, gone through, the process basically, and then that came up. So luckily, there was a bank location that was close by where the closing took place, even though their branch that they usually use was far away. So we were able to look that up. They were able to literally go pretty much almost just across the street, Barbara, and get back in a timely manner.
Yes. and it happens. It happens.
Yes, it does. So that's another aha moment for me. So I do like to find out relatively early in the process, is this a client who has a checkbook or is this a client who doesn't? Right. Now, given that you don't, I actually have a checkbook. I rarely use it, but you just never know when that's going to come up.
Well, just so everybody knows, if you don't have a checkbook and you know it's going to come up, you can always go to your bank and you can ask them for some checks. They'll give you a couple of checks off your checking account. They'll give you like 2 or 3 or something a form of
Okay.
paper. You can always get that.
Okay, I'm so glad you told me that, because I was going to ask you what would be a remedy.
Yep.
Because you don't know that it's going to happen until it happens,
Until it
and you're
happens.
actually at closing.
Yep.
So I love that.
Tell them to go to the bank, get a couple of
Okay.
checks just in case.
I'm going to add that to the
There
timeline,
you-
Barbara.
Oh, I just said added something for the timeline. Yes.
Just in case.
Yes. Okay. There you go.
When you're getting your wire done, you may want to just ask, if you don't have checks already,
Go to
just
your bank.
Ask for
Get you some
just
checks.
ask for some
starter
checks.
checks or get you some checks.
All right
Whatever it
now.
is.
Love
Yes.
it, love it, love it, love it.
Yes. Yes.
The other thing that I want to talk about is the wiring, because we kind of mentioned that, and the wiring is obviously very important, because I don't know if any title companies accept large amounts of money through personal checks. I just
Under $1,000.
under $1,000. Okay, and of course, most closing costs are going to be
More
more
than
than
that,
that.
right.
Yes. So, so you have to get the wiring instructions. You get the wiring instructions through the title company, and usually I will say to the client, I will say to the title company, if I'm working with Cardinal Title specifically, I ask them to also send me the wiring instructions at the same
that you can
time,
give
so that I
to the
know
client.
that my clients have it. We kind of review it together. I've had clients every once in a while who've never done wiring, and they're a little nervous. So I just kind of go through with them. It's no big deal. I remember the first time I did it. No big deal. You can do this. You just have the instructions. You take it over to one of the bankers, and they know what to do.
Right.
They take over the process. You just
Right.
have to get them the instructions. They know what to do. And so that's usually done, within a timely manner also. And now we're here at closing. We're at closing. And that is called the culminating activity. That is the big crescendo. That's like what everybody's been waiting for.
Right.
Clients get their keys. Everybody's excited for them. And the owners are excited. In the old day, and I guess the old day would have been prior to COVID, the owners and the previous owners and the new buyers, they were there together at the table. I used to really love that, Barbara.
Yeah.
I used to really
Back
love
in the
that.
day.
Back in the day.
Back in
I
the
don't know
day.
that we'll ever get there again, but back in the day, it was always a time for some sharing to happen. It might have been information about the home or whatever, but it was always very nice. And so I used to love when that would happen, but of course that doesn't happen anymore.
So we're at the closing table. We've signed everything. We're closing out. And we're giving the keys
Yes.
to the new homeowner. And you, as a new homeowner, will be getting your home. And I just think that is just wonderful, Jackie. So if you guys have any questions, you can send us an email to homebuyerquestions@gmail.com, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. If you have any more questions about the home buying process, next show, I'm going to be talking about the mortgage process and giving you more information on the mortgage process.
Alrighty.
So please make sure that you stay tuned to us, correct?
Because I think some mortgage process is happening while we're doing all of this real estate process. Am I right?
But absolutely.
That's right.
So we want you to make sure that you stay tuned so you can be home buyer ready.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us again. We had a wonderful time again, and I will see you in two.
Bye.